Hello, guys.
Hello.
How are you?
That was nice.
Welcome, welcome. That was a very swift and lovely dismount there from your Bromptons. Hello, everyone at home. I'm talking here, aren't I? Yes. Welcome to Restore 20. It's a series of events over 5 days by Fora Space, and it's a festival of the mind, body and soul, which I think we can all agree we probably need after 2020 so far. So it's a series of panels. This one is in partnership with Brompton Bike, as you saw the guys get off their bikes as they came in very sweetly. Exactly, yeah. And we're going to be talking about cycling, why you don't have to be a certain type of person to get into it. You don't need to be covered in lycra. It's all going to be fine. And I'm joined today by two wonderful guests. I'm here with Jonathan Ciccone Joly. I can't say that without being like, ooh.
You have to. It's part of the whole vibe.
And Jools Walker. Hello, guys.
Hello.
And I'm gonna feel like Bridget Jones here, like introduce people with thoughtful details. But Jonathan, you're a family vlogger. Are you a blogger or a vlogger?
Vlogger.
Vlogger, never a blog, always a vlog.
Well, we've been in it for 11 years, so we were bloggers.
Okay.
You know.
And then it transcended.
Yeah. And now it's like we work on like 7 or 8 different platforms and we do everything. So it's like I think we're just people who share our lives.
Okay. And because you've got over 2 million followers over your platforms, is that right?
Well, it's actually more? 6 million on like all the different ones.
6 million.
Yeah, TikTok.
These notes are
YouTube,
wrong.
And Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat. There's so many like.
6 million. That's incredible.
The thing, being around for so long in this space, you know what I mean, and so many different platforms.
Yeah. Are you still on MySpace?
No, that's the space. Well, I think my Bebo still exists though.
Oh, amazing! That isn't. I haven't heard that word for years. And you document a little bit about your cycling and cycling with the kids as well.
Yeah.
So that's why we've kind of.
Yeah. I think over the years, when I first got into it, it was my brother's 30th, I think, and we kind of got into it. And we were like traveling up the mountains of Ireland, and we were like, oh, this is kind of fun. And then since then, all the way, I turned 40 this year. For that whole 10 years, you know, I've been just big into biking.
Yeah.
You know, it's just great. And yeah, it's fun for the kids. It's fun for me. More fun for me, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And Jules, you're an author. You're an all-rounder, basically. I was reading your biography. I was like, okay, she's an author. She's an influencer. She's like one of the biggest faces of cycling in the UK. And you also go by, I want to say Lady Velo. Like
Lady
a French
Velo.
person.
I say Lady Velo.
Not Lady Velo.
Some people say Lady Velo, but yeah, no, Lady Velo is how I say it. So yeah.
Yeah, and you wrote a book, Getting Back in the Frame.
Yes, Back in the Frame, how to get back on your bike, whatever life throws at you.
Yeah.
So that came out in May last year. So that's been amazing just to see how that's been reaching different people. Basically, the whole gist of it was talking about my journey of how I got back into cycling, shining a light on some of the incredible women that I've met on my cycling journey who are positive disruptors to what people think cycling is and what you have to be or look like in order to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's basically just my big love letter to cycling.
And that went crazy, didn't it, that book?
Yes.
I mean,
yes. In the nicest way.
Yeah,
it's been very positively received, very positively reviewed. The wonderful thing for me out of everything that's happened is the people that it's actually connected me with. And the messages that I get back from men and women who read it, who feel like that they can identify something of themselves in that book as well, and just opening up more conversations about cycling and about mental health, which is something I'm very, very frank about on my journey as well. So,
well, that's kind of what I was going to ask you guys about first. Like, how did you, because Jules, you talk about getting back into cycling. Mm-hmm. So were you into it for a while and then because I know that you have documented how it helped your mental health. Mm-hmm. What kind of kicks, like, talk me through your sort of cycling ups and downs, as it were.
My whole cycling journey, I guess, started when I was a child. So I used to ride around a tricycle at home and basically terrorise my whole family with it. It was the love of my life. And my biggest influence is actually my big sister, Michelle. So she's 8 years older than me. And she got a BMX Rally Burner. And it was an incredible bike that I was in love with from the time that I was a child and I saw it. And I always wanted to go out riding with my sister. But when you've got like a cool big sister, which is what I refer to her as in the book, she doesn't want her snotty little sister riding around with her.
Yeah.
But I ended up inheriting that bike from my sister when she stopped cycling as a teenager. So there was a silver lining to something that was very sad that happened and something that ended up happening to me further down the line as well. So I got this bike, I loved it. I had my cycling crew or my cycling family that formed from it. So I had these amazing bonds as a child with other kids that I was riding with. But the classic thing happened again. You fall out of love with it, it's not cool anymore, your girlfriends aren't into it, and it just kind of flitters away. And I tried and tried to carry on with it. And then I got to 18 years old and I stopped. That was it. And I found every excuse I possibly could not to get on a bike.
Yeah.
I can get the train to uni because I studied in London. It's easier for me to get public transport to wherever it is I want to go to. And it got really lonely. There were elements of it that weren't that fun, including like catcalling that would happen when I was out on my bike on my own. So that was a no-no. And I spent 10 years not on a bike and just really missing it. And it wasn't until I hit 28 years old that I thought to myself, I want to do this again. I literally want to get back in the frame and be back on my bike. And the things that pushed me were my partner, Ian, who is a cycling enthusiast as well, and I got quite jealous of him commuting to work on his bike and enjoying it, and thought, I want a piece of that. And also just feeling like I needed to put myself out there, because if there were any other women or young girls who are feeling the same way, if they're not seeing themselves represented, maybe it would make a difference to see someone you could identify with. So I thought, well, I'm going to do it. So I started up my blog, Velo City Girl, started putting myself out there on the internet, and everything else that's happened has come from that, and it's been an incredible journey.
Wow. That sounds so much better than my one, which is I've always loved cycling, but during lockdown I really, really hit it hard and sort of rode my bike into the ground. Sort of challenging myself. That's the only reason I don't feel like an imposter on this panel, because I'm like, for the last 5 months I've been smashing that bike, so much so that it's now knackered and needs needs repairing. So yeah, that's much more inspiring than my sort of, oh, I'm legally not allowed to do anything else, so I'm I'm going to get on the bike. But so what about during lockdown, you guys? Have you cycled even more, or have you, like Jonathan? How did you entertain 4 children during lockdown? Surely cycling was a big...
Well, I thought about just getting stationary bikes and leaving them on it for 15 weeks. Just tire them out every day and put them to bed, wake them up, feed them, tire them out.
Like a hamster wheel.
Yeah. That's the only way to keep them quiet. But I think lockdown was... you couldn't go that far. That was the only thing. But I was lucky. I live out in Surrey, so we have the North Downs right beside me, which is like 50, 60 miles. So it's just peace. You know what I mean? That's the thing about it, that if you go out on a bike, you kind of forget about the rest of the world.
Yeah, this is what we were talking about before, off camera, about how, you were saying it's lockdown, and this year has kind of made people reflect, and now, especially exercise and cycling, it clears your mind when you're doing that. And you can
like in the school that I'm at, we have all the groups, and it used to be like, we used to have like the dad drinking group, which is now converted to the dad biking. Well, it's actually called biking and drinking, but biking is an element, so we cycle to the pub. But the point is, cycling is an element of it, because I feel like more and more people are like, this is actually fun.
Yeah.
It's not just like, well, I'm talking specifically mountain biking, but it's not, you see the road bike people and you think like, oh, I'm not one of them.
They seem like a very slick crew.
Yeah.
This is why I wanted to do this panel, because we're trying to sort of open it up.
Yeah.
Normal people like us can be on bikes.
Yeah, I know, yeah. So when I'm when road bike people are going past me up Highgate Hill, and I'm just sort of like looking like I'm in my last minutes.
And you're like...
I feel like Jools was gonna fight the corner of the road bike.
Well, I know we will end up talking about this at some point, but trying every single thing that cycling has to offer gives you a different perspective as well. So my running joke is, once upon a time, like when I got back into cycling 10 years ago, you would never find any Lycra in any way, shape or form in my wardrobe. And now that's changed quite a lot. So it's like, it happens.
You've got all the gear now.
Yes. All the gear.
First you mock the person, then you go, what's that like? And then you try it as a joke, you buy it. You know what I mean? And like, do you know what? I'm going to go out as a joke, and I'm going to dress like this. You know what I mean? And you're like, oh, do you know what?
Yeah, but Jonathan, do you own any Lycra now?
I do own a lot.
See?
There it is.
For a joke.
Are you sure?
Just for a joke.
Yeah, when you're going to the pub.
Yeah, just for a joke, Just, a couple of 40-year-old men, in Lycra in the pub. Completely normal.
Absolutely fine.
Yeah.
So you got back into it 10 years ago, did you say? Because I feel like everyone does cycle as a kid, don't
I feel like, I wouldn't claim, like, your story sounds better, but I wouldn't say, like, I got back into it. I feel like, everyone cycles as a kid.
Yeah, of course,
But I don't think, I don't remember it being, like, a big thing. But I remember one thing about myself and my brother is that we have, as we grew up together, right, we've always we got into the PlayStation together, and then we changed and we evolved, and then we got into motorbikes together, and then we all had children, so that was the end of that.
Yeah.
And then I moved to England, and he was still in Ireland, and then we found out he got into mountain biking. He said, oh, come on, meet with my birthday, you know, and then I went with him, and then suddenly we fell in love with this thing, and then there was just a new reason for us to talk to each other.
Yeah.
You know, and then we traveled there, and he traveled over here, and then we kind of traveled around together a lot, and then it was a new thing that kept us together.
Yeah.
And for 10 years, it's a love that's it's still there. I feel like that's probably, the biking is cool, but the relation, the connection that it brings, you know, it is kind of antisocial, right? But I feel like it is very social.
Yeah.
Because if your friends are into biking, they're into it, like you're into it.
And that's just it. That's what I've found through the communities that I've ended up becoming part of with social media, especially. You know, I don't shy away from the fact that I'm quite an introvert, despite the fact all of the stuff that I do and being quite a public-facing person. I actually find it really difficult to make friends with people. And cycling brought me out of myself and connected me to so many people that, as I say, I refer to as my cycling family. So it's been incredible in that sense, and those bonds that you form with people. I think it's really lovely you talking about this with your brother. If you don't mind me asking, and it's just me taking over for it.
Absolutely fine.
What's the age difference between you and your brother?
1 year.
1 year.
Yeah,
okay,
he's
so
a year older.
with me, my brother, and my sister, Mama Velo spaced us all out. So my brother is 16 years older than me, and my sister is 8 years older than me. So Mama took her time when she had her babies. And it's that whole thing of...
well, Mama Velo, of course you're all into bike.
But I wasn't able to do that with my sister when I wanted to. And, you know, I've talked about it in the book that my sister would defend me to the death if something went wrong, but I would also be someone who would annoy her quite a lot as well, just from being a little sister. And it wasn't
That's our job as younger siblings.
Yeah, we're just here to wind you up, basically. That's what we're going to do. But, you know, as life's gone on, my sister now has 2 boys who are both into cycling as well. So that kind of connection has come back along the way, and her boys are only a couple of years apart from each other in age, so they're able to go riding together. And I just think to myself, that's such a lovely thing. So just hearing you talking about mountain biking being the thing that you and your brother have gelled.
And it's funny because now both of his son is 10, but my daughter is 8. You know, so she's a bit younger, but she's not that into it either. But he says in our WhatsApp group, he's talking about oh yeah, we went here and went with Dylan and stuff, and I'm like, that's so cool that our children will get into this because we're into it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's one of those things where it's a positive thing. You know, when you going out biking and stuff like that, it's not like you're doing a negative thing. There's actually a benefit from it as well. You know, so it's no, it's a nice bond.
Yeah.
You know?
Definitely.
It definitely is. I during my lockdown frenzy, kind of, bonded with different friends because one of my friends is really, really into cycling, and we did some long rides. I mean, probably nothing compared to what you guys do, but and we went to all the different football stadiums around London. We did that as a tour around lockdown, which was very eerie, very sort of 28 days later.
Yeah.
But you know, you have a whole day where you're doing a productive thing, and sort of it is very social, I think, and it is quite.
But it's also
bonding.
strange how when you start doing it and you realise, oh, look at this. Like I was saying today, when you took the train in, you're like, I'm going to get a bike.
Yeah.
I'm just going to cycle across. I'm going to get in a taxi or an underground.
Yeah.
You know? And then you're in bike crew.
Yes.
With the bike vibe. You're in London. You're like, rough.
I was gonna say that's when I felt the most sort of, maybe I had a little say in the community of just nodding at another cyclist.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I can't drive, so I've got no tribes.
You probably should nod at people when you're driving anyway.
Yeah, that's true. But you know, the sort of the camaraderie between if there's a speed camera and a flash. Oh, I've always envied that. Just grassing on the police. Probably shouldn't say that. Helping each other out, community spirit, that's what I meant. So what different tribes have you guys sort of experienced with? Jools, maybe you slightly more, because you said you've been involved with different groups that you know, in the cycling community since you got back into it. Is it very, I'm imagining Mean Girls, you know, sort of the canteen, there's the road bikers, the mountain bikers, the casual
They are very different though.
Oh, but
They dress different, we look different.
I want to know about all of them.
But it's just, I mean, when I was looking at it from, I guess, an outsider's point of view, like when I got back into cycling, I got a great big sit up and beg bicycle. So like, you know, big romantic affair, basket on the front, big ding dong bell.
Yeah.
That was
Good
the
luck
only...
on a mountain with that.
Yeah.
I'd taken it around the New Forest.
With a little
though.
dog in the front.
Really?
Yeah, I'd taken it because I
Stylish.
I digress, but I didn't hire a mountain bike. I decided I'm going to take my sit up and beg, and that's the bike I'm going to ride around the New Forest.
You show them.
Yeah, I showed
How-
them, but I
how was
also
that?
felt it as well. So that was a whole new experience. But no, there's that idea that for me, I got that bike. That was it. There wasn't anything else because it was the dream bike that I wanted to get. That I wanted from the time I was a child.
Yeah.
But circumstance and finances meant that wasn't going to happen for me when I was little. I inherited my sister's bike. That was all good. Loved it. But when I got that bike, I was like, right, this is it. I'm set. And then you get drawn into the various cycling communities who may suggest to you you might want to give riding, you know, single speed a go, or have you ever thought about having a go like on track? And, you know...
Well, already I'm like, yes.
It's like that whole thing of, well, you know, maybe, and it's like I won't find out if I like it or not unless I give it a go. And if it's something that it feels like it's going to welcome me into as well, I was like, yeah, I'll try it and see what happens. And all of these different communities that you meet within cycling are so passionate about what it is that they do that they want to encourage you to get into it. They want you to give it a go and find out why you get such a thrill mountain biking or why you would get such a thrill going around a velodrome. Do you know what I mean? It's just those different elements. And, you know, that's led to both me and my partner living in a house where there are more bikes than there are people. So, you know, there are different bikes for different occasions.
Bike room.
Yeah, and it's like there are bikes in the bedroom, there are bikes in the living room, there are bikes in the spare bedroom, and it's like they're all there for the different things that you want to do.
What's a bedroom bike for?
It's the spare bedroom where there's no bed anymore.
That was a new thing. It was a thing that I was missing.
That was a new
It's
tribe I've missed.
something a little different. But no, it's like the spare bedroom where all of the bikes just kind of end up living. And it's like you think, right, well, I've got this bike, XYZ, don't need anything else, and then something else happens, and then another bike, if you're able to, happens. The latest one that happened for me was my Brompton that I got. I'd wanted a Brompton for so long.
Yeah.
And Ian, my partner, he was lucky enough to have been given a Brompton for Christmas by his sister, his birthday. And he then surprised me with a Brompton for Christmas a couple of years ago, and a whole new love affair with cycling started all over again.
Yeah, that's what sort of sparked mine as well, that I got a Brompton.
Yeah.
Because it's so, I think it's just like so accessible.
Yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean? You don't need to have all the cool bits and pieces.
Yeah, and it's cool enough as well.
And you stand on the train with your, you're like...
Somebody pulled up to me at
community
you're right.
as well,
Yeah.
so
There's the nod, the Brompton nod.
It was like, no, he pulled up to me at a traffic light and went, is that a Brompton? I was like, yeah. And we both cycled off. And there was that awkward thing where we were sort of going the same pace, and I dropped back. So I was like, it's like when you're going the same way after you've asked for directions. It was awkward. But and you know, that's so great that it is such an inclusive community once you sort of poke your head in and stuff. Because I was going to ask you guys about, because it does seem that at the moment, I feel like 10 years ago, there wasn't, you know, a huge amount of guys sort of on the road really getting into cycling and stuff. And now it seems to be a huge thing
Feels like it's
with
more
guys.
than cars.
Absolutely. But I feel like women aren't quite caught up with the guys yet in terms of, I hope it's on the rise.
Glad you said that now. No, I didn't say
No, because I was going to say it's great, but I don't see as many women
I think guys
cycling.
we're terrible at getting obsessed with things. You know?
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
the
but-
older you get, I think it's more relevant with more mature guys. You know what I mean? I think that
Absolutely,
as we
yeah.
get older, it's like we've got children, right? You got mortgages, you got school. Things are different in life, so the thrills that you're after, you're not going to be
Massively,
able to
I
get.
know a load of
But
guys that got
biking,
into it,
You get the endorphin rush, you get the bit of a thrill, you get to obsess and customize it. It's not a motorbike, it's not a car, it's a bike that it's just, and then it's a positive thing. As well, so you just feel like, and feeling part of a club, especially as a guy, the older you get, it's definitely harder to make friends.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then you start, you've got your work life and you've got your family life, and then you meet other dads at school or something, and then you start to like, oh, what do you like? Oh, do you like biking? And then suddenly
it's
a
a
whole
thing.
group forms, and it's really easy because you don't even need to talk to each other that much.
Perfect for guys.
Yeah, and it's like, and then you see someone on a mountain, you give them a nod, and you see them at a sign. You're like, oh, where are you going? Is there a route down there? And then suddenly you're in that team.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and then you're going that way, and then suddenly you just pick up groups. And I'd say road biking's the same. You know what I mean? You'd stop at a cafe, like there's loads of cool biking cafes, and you walk in that door, and suddenly you're in the club.
Yeah.
You know, and then everyone's just nice to you, and you're just like, it can probably make you feel really like part of something.
Yeah, absolutely. Jules, do you think women are is there starting to be an upward trend for more women to cycle and get into it properly? Or?
There has been, just within lockdown, when you look at some of the figures that are floating about out there and some of the press that's been focusing on that too, there has been more of a surge of women taking up cycling. But there's so much more work to be done to encourage more women to get into it as well. I mean, speaking from my own perspective, I spent those 10 years desperately wanting to get back on a bike, but also looking at the cycling industry thinking this doesn't feel like a particularly reflective place, like in regards to even the marketing or the advertising that surrounds it and what have you. And, you know, it's a whole nother conversation, but talking about like the planning that goes into the infrastructure for cycling, how that affects women as well in regards to the cycling needs for women out there. It's an ongoing process. It really is. So there's lots of work internally that needs to be done within the industry to make those changes, and then within those bodies that govern it too. But for me, where I've been meeting with other women on social media, have either come to cycling through following me or reading my book or having a look at the stuff that I've put out there previously, it always just feels like it's in a step in the right direction. So that's something positive to focus on as well. But there's still some way to go. But women can definitely get very obsessive when it comes to their bikes and their accessories and their clubs that they're with as well.
I never even thought about the fact that now I'm starting thinking in my head, going like, how often do I see girls on a mountain? I don't know. I've never really thought about there's a divide. I didn't even know it was more of a guy thing.
And when you think of I was going to ask you, what do you think can be done by brands to encourage more women? Is it just sort of seeing
Give them free bikes?
Yes, exactly. Free bikes for all.
It's working with like women's cycling groups on a grassroots level all the way up to elite cycling as well. It's like some of the women that I've spoken to and even interviewed in my books, an incredible woman called Adele who I interviewed, who's a mountain biker. She got into it in her 40s as well.
Oh, wow.
And that was through her deciding that she wanted to try something new, and she ended up with like her own club of women that she cycles with as well, who were all feeling the same way, that they wanted to be doing something like this. But for the industry to look inwards and think, we need to be doing something different, we need to be reaching out to these different audiences and these different demographics that exist, it's very easy to keep on trundling along with the same marketing plans or the same ideas that you've had, because it's successful for your business. Nothing has gone wrong. Everything is still chugging along nicely. It's taking the blinkers off, which is really important, and just revising what it is that you've done and changing it.
I think you need some good role models, probably.
Yeah.
Someone go out there, like you can probably think of like loads of guys who are big names in the biking stuff, and maybe they're good role models, and maybe that's what's missing. You know what I mean? Is a good role model female that other women can feel empowered, and like maybe the people are just scared to like, you know what I mean? I'll just keep doing yoga or just keep running.
Yeah,
that's
it
what
feels like
other
a
women are doing.
male-dominated sort of
Never even thought about it now.
club, like, I mean, it's not your fault. Don't
Sorry,
worry,
guys.
We're not blaming you, but you are surrounded. No. But because I was going to say with, especially with at top level cycling, it seems to be fairly equal. I mean, at the Olympics, you're sort of, oh no, you're going to shoot me down. No, I just mean, but in the Olympics, you feel like, especially Great Britain, we do really well in the velodrome, with men and women. So it feels like there's sort of a gap in the middle.
It's an interesting one there.
Come on, Jules, dish the
I was part of a webinar that happened yesterday where I was lucky enough to speak to a woman called Louise Gibson, who is part of the Internationals. And they are a group of 10 incredible women who are working towards shining a light on the inequalities that exist within cycling, and also shining a light on the fact that we're still kind of working towards there being a women's Tour de France. Like, the last time that happened was in 1989. And then every year we still have the men's Tour de France that's happening. Do you know what I mean? So there's still some work to be done.
So there hasn't been so women were doing it in 1989, and then what? The 90s hit, and they thought, nah.
I never even thought about this. I thought Tour de France was girls and boys.
This is the wonderful thing about this exchange of information that's happening on these seats tonight. And
people will know.
Dame Sarah Story as well, who I was able to speak to in the the webinar as well, and she's like Britain's most successful female Paralympian, and we're talking about the disparities that still exist within cycling at elite level and things that are being done towards smashing that, essentially. But yeah, it's as I say, it's a conversation probably for a whole nother day. But there's lots of work that's still to be done.
Yeah.
To survey like a lot of people, you know what I mean, to try and find out what to think. And like I know that for like this year, I started yoga, and then being the only guy all the time in the classes does sometimes feel a bit like, oh, this is difficult, you know. And there's not a lot of guys doing it, so you feel like. But then because I'm on social media, I'm sharing that with my audience, and there are others guys watching that, thinking like, oh.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good example of the opposite. Like yoga is sort of.
Is there anything I can think of where I feel like, yeah, it's the opposite way
Then you
around.
take a guy to a yoga class and they come out and they're like, oh my God. Like,
What we were just sitting there like this. I didn't realize it was so intense.
No, exactly. Like, yeah. So I just have to ask, I know it is a question for another day, but why did it stop in 1989?
That I couldn't give you a very quick answer to. I think.
No, that's okay. I'm sorry to put you on the
No,
spot.
that's okay.
Just in case there was some crazy reason that we could start a campaign. But I said, is there any hope of it coming back? Or?
There is talk. So there was supposed to have been an announcement on the rest day on the 14th. So that was Monday, but it didn't quite happen. But there's talk of a women's Tour de France being announced for 2022.
Oh, okay. That's...
Unless I've missed anything while we're doing this today, I haven't
Live.
heard an announcement
Live
yet
updates.
about it. So
And is there enough like cyclists and stuff? Like, there's enough interest in it?
Yeah, but
why
there
did they
needs
do
to
it?
be more.
Doesn't make any sense then.
This is why we're talking about the fact there needs to be more sponsorship, there needs to be more media
Maybe
coverage.
because no one's talking about it.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
that's
just
the
it.
reason.
Or maybe because people are talking about it and certain people aren't listening is the thing as well. So, yeah.
I can't see how it could.
That would be a huge thing as well if it was like 2022 and it hadn't been on for, 35 years or nearly or whatever. Like, that would be a massive win for... And it would definitely encourage women to take up cycling, I think.
Yeah.
Because people always say after the Olympics that there's a huge uptake in cycling because
yeah.
we always do very well, Great Britain. Sorry, not maybe Ireland do as well. I don't know. Not saying you're British.
Okay.
It's panicked. How do Ireland do at the cycling?
We're good at rugby,
Okay.
and we're claiming that.
That was such a diplomatic answer. I love it. Have you both, Jules, I'm guessing you have. Jonathan, I don't know if you have. Have you ever cycled in a velodrome? I'm guessing you have.
No.
How
I've never.
scary is that?
God.
Does it go really fast?
If
It's
you build up the speed
but it's the
and
tilt.
it's the defying gravity.
It's
Does
basically
it
the-
just naturally do it itself?
You'll find your way. You will graduate up there. I had the experience of riding in the velodrome in Manchester, so the National Cycling Centre, and oh my goodness, I had the option of not doing it. I went along for an event, and I got told, you don't have to do this if you don't want to. And I'm there head to foot in my lycra. I'm like, no, I'm doing this. This is how I find out if I like it or not.
Exactly, yeah.
And you're starting off in the ring, you're doing the thing. The feeling of speed then starts to kick in. You're going faster. You're being obviously conscious of everybody else that you're cycling with on the velodrome. And then it's just that feeling. And it's just like, you kind of can't stop and you don't want to stop. That's how it felt for me. And it was just a thrill and a rush and something that 14-year-old Jools probably didn't see herself doing.
Yeah,
and even
absolutely.
28-year-old Jools, when she got back on a bike, didn't see herself doing. And it was just dipping the toe in the most extreme way. It was a buzz. It was an absolute buzz. I recommend it to anyone who is thinking of doing something like that. If you're able to go and have a track session, do it.
Because how do you slow yourself down?
You just
Jump off. Just roll.
You're basically like horizontal, aren't
You've
you?
got no brakes or anything like that, and because you're
no brakes
riding,
in the bike?
No, not in a
and 'cause you're-
velodrome.
No, because you're riding track as well. If you stop, that's it. It's just you're like fixed. So it's like you just gradually come down.
I feel like I'd be the person who would have a huge accident.
But it sounds like such a cliche, but you and the bike become like one. And it just feels incredibly natural. You're defying gravity. It feels like you're defying gravity when you're banking further and further
can
up.
imagine.
But
Just don't think about it.
no, you don't think about it.
do you
Does
just
it
sort of
almost feel like
slow
you just
down?
going
Slow down.
straight? Do you just feel like it's
Yeah.
just does it naturally just bring you around?
And then you're getting higher and higher, and then when you're coming back down again, it's just, I don't know. The only way I can describe it is it's an absolute high, and
Yeah.
it's been too long since I've had that experience.
Would you do it on a Brompton bike?
I would like to see how that would go on a Brompton bike.
Join us next week when we'll be in the velodrome. We've accidentally turned into Blue Peter. So, and what can you, I mean, with velodrome, I mean, obviously anybody can sort of get a bike and start cycling and go around where they live, etc. But if you wanted to start doing things in the velodrome, how would somebody go about that? What's the grassroots level of that sort of cycling?
Well, there's grassroots thinking about Herne Hill Velodrome as well. So they have a outdoor track that you're able to do that on. A lot of these places run track sessions for beginners as well. So it's not like you're going to get thrown into the deep end and they're expecting you to be high on the banks and winning gold medals doing it. It's just for you to dip your toe in and get to experience it. So you've got wonderful organisations out there that would be able to offer you like taster sessions and what have you.
Right.
You know, that can even trickle down to you becoming part of a track cycling team as well, like a local team. So it's just these little opportunities that are there for you to give it a go. And again, another wonderful thing about the cycling community is that it's really encouraging.
Yeah,
It's
they want
super
you there,
encouraging,
yeah.
So, you know, or even in Stratford in the Olympic Village, obviously the velodrome there, they do taster sessions like at Lee Valley as well. So it's just finding out about those resources that are there. Imagining yourself in that space as well is quite essential too, because like I said, I never would have imagined myself to be doing something like that, and gave it a go and really enjoyed it. So yeah, it's just.
I know, I would never, it's one of those things where, I mean, I used to do athletics, so I was on a track all the time, but if you put, I know, fairly fit and everything, but if you put me in a velodrome, I'd feel like, I mean, I know it's a different sport, but, you know, I was very, very sporty and up for everything, but I think if you put me in a velodrome, I would be like, oh my God, what am I doing here? You know, because it does feel slightly inaccessible, that side of cycling, but I bet loads of people would love to try it, you know, and if it became as commonplace as going down the track and starting to train, it would be, you know, a great.
Can you go around your garden really fast and up onto the fence?
Yeah, just on the banks.
Yeah.
Just make little sort of, you could do it for the kids, just do a little obstacle course.
Just practice it.
Come on, kids. One of you can win gold. And in terms of like encouraging different ethnicities and stuff as well, because it does seem like a very, I mean, I might be wrong, it seems like a very white-dominated sport, especially at top level. You know, do you work with people to try and sort of make it more visible to different communities in that sense as well?
Yeah, I mean, as part of the reason why I ended up putting myself out there in the first place when I started 10 years ago, you know, it's led to doing things like helping found the Women of Colour cycling group that exists as well, that I did with Jenny Gwizdowski of London Bike Kitchen, so that was incredible. And seeing how those women within that group are flourishing and putting themselves out there and encouraging other women of colour, non-binary people who feel like they don't belong in that world to be part of it is huge. But it's also talking, as I said before, to those big organisations and groups, businesses and brands that exist to let them understand that you can't just focus on one particular demographic, and that then perpetuates the problem of the marginalisation of people in cycling who feel like they don't belong. So, yeah, it's... I say to brands and companies that I end up working with and organisations, you're going to get it wrong. No matter what it is that you try to do, you're going to get it wrong. But if you're working towards getting it right, that's the important thing. You can't keep on ignoring the elephant in the room.
And why would you want to? Why, you know, market to everybody?
Yeah, this is just it. There's, you know, I'm always of the thought that cycling really should be for absolutely everybody. Yeah. And you should never feel like an outsider for looking at an activity that you think, you know, I want to get into it if it's recreational, if you want to get into it for competitive reasons. It's just, it should just be available for you to do so. Yeah. So, yeah, that's why I like to get on the soapbox about it.
It's probably hard for some people if you're an adult and you never rode a bike as a kid, and then you're just like, you just say, of course I can ride a bike. You're like, oh God.
Yeah, because I had a friend, she can't ride a bike now, and now I think it's just become this huge thing in her head, you know, and I was like, don't worry.
Stabilizer's all right.
Yeah, I was like, it's fine, it won't take you long, you know, and then we can get those on. We've got a main road. Just going down the Euston Road with stabilisers on. But yeah, and you're right, I think that's a huge thing. Loads of people cycle as a kid, dead easy, whatever, forget about it and then come back to it.
As an adult, you don't think about, like, you just going out to your mate's gaff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
just going out around the estate or something like that. You just see.
You don't think of it as a proper
professionals
thing, do you?
Go past and you're thinking, nah, I'm not getting into that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like, that's the thing, there's all that. But that's probably what puts people off. Maybe that's what puts women off, because they just see guys out there, head to toe, don't talk to me.
Yeah, it seems like a serious thing.
It's just the normalisation of cycling needs to be a thing. And I think, you know, my early experiences when I got back into my cycling journey as an adult, like I went to Berlin in 2000, I think it was 2009 that I went, no, 2011 I went. And everyone was just cycling like it was nothing. And I was like, okay, this is cool, I want to live here now. But it was great. And then I had the experience of cycling in Amsterdam as well, which was like proper on the bucket list. I've got to do this.
Yeah.
And there was just more people on bikes than there were people on foot and more cars. And it was just like almost crazy how many people on bikes there were. And it was just every day.
Yeah.
Just every day, A to B, whatever.
So do you think in Europe, like France and Italy and Netherlands, like in those countries, do you think women are more into biking?
From what I have seen,
Because it does look like everyone just commutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. From what one of the questions I was going to ask you guys is like, what do you think we can do to be more like Amsterdam was my example because I don't know if you've been, Jonathan, but it is just, you know.
Yeah, well, there's not even, like here you have to actually use your car. It's just bikes everywhere.
Yeah,
you just
yeah.
take a bike and go for it.
I remember first seeing that in Paris, the now, I mean, we call them Boris bikes still, don't we? But the Santander bikes. I remember first seeing that in Paris, you know,
Yeah.
Parisian version, thinking, this is a great idea, this is
I think it's like a
amazing.
generational thing, right?
Yeah.
Because we grew up, well, I'm older than you, but in my
Well.
generation.
I mean, we're probably the same generation.
You know, it's like you grew up, that wasn't a thing.
No,
You know what I
no.
mean? But if
no,
the kids
never.
of today grow up and there's just always bike, like I have four kids, I have two girls.
Got two of them.
Yeah, I have two girls and two boys, right? And I was thinking my girls, right? My girls cycle more than my boys,
Oh, that's good.
right?
Ah.
But that's why I'm all like shocked. I'm like, what? No, their mates cycle, right? But
Right,
maybe
yeah.
something's going to happen over the next 15 years in their life where they're going to put away the bike
'Cause
and
I
they're
do
going to
think it
think
is
more
quite
about their
equal,
outfits
yeah.
and they're going to think more about their hair and makeup. I don't know, like maybe something draws them away from the bikes, and the boys are like messy and dirty and still biking. I don't know what it is. I'm going to keep an eye on it though.
I think you should. You've got the perfect experiment.
Yeah, yeah,
for
exactly,
children
yeah.
To study with this.
Yeah.
Got the exact conditions.
They don't mind.
Yeah, exactly. No, but I think you're right. I think in Europe it is a little bit more balanced. I mean, you all have more experience than me, but when you go to Amsterdam, there does seem to be sort of 50-50, and there's so many more bikes. I mean, why do you think that is? Like, is it just a different culture? Is it that they're just
People like cars here.
Yeah,
cultural
I think.
differences, and to me, I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble saying this or not, but London, like, because I can only speak for living in this city. It's where I'm from. It's where I've been all my life. It's not a city that feels like it's necessarily designed for bikes, in all honesty.
Yeah.
So, you know, if that infrastructure again isn't there, then why would people necessarily feel like it's going to be safe or comfortable to?
Right, so
to do that?
Amsterdam, if you're not on a bike, like if you're in a car, forget about it.
Yeah.
You know, I've driven around on motorbikes. We came into the town and then we were like, oh, the motorbikes is okay, apart from keep accidentally going on the tram lines. But if you're on a bike, it's way easier. So
Yeah.
if they prioritize, you know what I mean, non-engine machines, then yeah, maybe. But I don't.
The official term.
Yeah, yeah.
Machine, I
I just
like
don't
that.
see London. The underground is great, and I don't
No,
know.
but any chance to avoid the. I mean, I loved not being on the tube for
But
5
then maybe
months.
that's what this
Great.
year has done.
Yeah.
You know, with
Yeah.
us,
I really
with
hope
us
it
all
has.
reimagining
Yeah.
life without cars, life without undergrounds. You always think we get off, like I'll take the main train to Surrey, but then you get off and you think, how can I avoid the underground?
Yeah.
How can I avoid a taxi? How can I avoid a bus? How can I avoid an
Well,
overground?
that's where Brompton's handy, because you could do a big journey on the train with it,
Yeah.
and then just get off and be free.
Yeah.
Instead of being like, oh, down into the smog I go. Like, this is horrible.
Take your test on the way out.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, what about in Surrey? Have you seen it increase even round by? I mean, you're
Oh
out
yeah,
slightly out
because
in-
we're near the North Downs, like, you know, there's so much biking. And even,
Yeah.
like I said, I'm in the school, we've got 4 kids in school, so, you know, loads of group chats, and you can see there's definitely more and more people are getting into it. You see on the streets more and more people, but then what's happened this year is now we've got less cars on the road, so therefore it's actually more inviting to be a biker.
That is true, actually. I mean, I know lots of guys that do, you know, my friends, they're into, like, I mean, I say like extreme sports, but they're very sort of like, they'll do risky things and they're, you know, they'll...
We need
they'll-
that, we need that in our life.
Absolutely. But then I'll like be cycling home when I was working in the pub during lockdown. I'll be cycling home on my Brompton, they'd be like, "You're going to do that on the London roads?" And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, I've got my helmet. I'm not going to do anything rash or stupid." And they were like, "Oh, I wouldn't do that." And it's weird that that's the disparity between,
I still get that reaction. Even my mother still worries when I go out on my bike as well. And, it's that weird thing where I'm obviously talking about the fact that London doesn't feel like a city that's infrastructure is quite there yet. There's work being done on it.
There is a lot of,
But there's still a lot more to be done. But at the same time, it shouldn't feel like you are quite literally taking your life in your own hands when you get on a bike, and still getting that reaction from people who know how much cycling means to me, know how much I get out of being on a bike as well. But it's that whole, okay, you're gonna do it, and it's like, yeah, I am. So,
I think confidence. That's what I always think when I'm on a road. It's just confidence.
Absolutely,
I'm like, pay my taxes.
Yes.
I have a right to be here. You may sit behind me and beep.
Absolutely.
But I'm here.
Yeah. And that's
Hold
a good
your
thing,
lane.
and they are trying to make, London is getting slightly better with bike lanes and things
I
like
feel
that.
like because I live in Surrey, I feel different about it because I don't live in the city.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I feel like Surrey definitely, but then it's more leafy and more hilly, and people, it's a slower pace. Not everyone's in a rush. In the city, everyone's in a rush.
Yeah, of course. But I think it's increased, exponentially during lockdown. I really hope that doesn't go back.
Fingers crossed. It feels like it's on an upward trajectory with people getting into it, more people talking about it, more people trying to encourage other people to get into cycling as well, various fundings and initiatives that are starting up and certain campaigns that
They did that in Ireland. They gave everybody like almost free bikes. It was like this idea to try, and the government were like funding everyone, so everyone had like a voucher, and you could take that to a bike shop and get a bike.
Is that during lockdown or?
No, 5-10 years ago.
Right.
Okay.
And the idea was encouraging people not to get on cars, but you could bike to work, and if you do that, you can get a grant, and we'll buy you a nice bike. And just encourage, and everyone was taking that up.
That's great, because we had like cycle to work scheme, which was much, still a good thing, but it doesn't sound as good as that.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. If you encourage people,
Yeah.
when you say like, look, I tell you what, well, you can have this bike, and maybe they'll take it back through the taxes over like a smaller, like a college loan or something like that. But just somehow encourage people or give them some benefit if you cycle.
I do think people's
Like you can
relationship.
earn eco miles.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You get your electricity free if you cycle enough wattage.
You're onto something. We're going to be rich. No, but I think people's relationship with cycling, Jools, you kind of touched on it as well, and Jonathan, you as well. It was just like in your childhood, and then it sort of goes away for a bit, and then you sort of remember cycling.
Yeah.
So like, what advice would you give to someone that maybe, they haven't got a huge budget, but they want to get started again? What type of bike should they look for, or where should they go for their?
You can do a lot of like rent bikes nowadays.
Yeah.
Like you can if you're into mountain bike, if you want to try mountain biking, you can go to any mountain biking place, and they'll probably rent you a bike.
Like for a day or something.
Yeah. You try an electric bike, try loads of different bikes, I suppose. You know more about street bikes or.
Yeah, because like for me, like I said, it was the cycle to work scheme was how I got my first bike as an adult, because it can still be quite an expensive thing to get into. That really shouldn't be the case with
course.
cycling. But there are like bike cooperatives that are out there as well, and bike kitchens that you can actually go to even learn how to build your own bike. Stuff like that. That actually.
I should say we're in East London, so there's a lot around here. We're in Forest Space near Spitalfields.
But yeah,
very cool area.
Outside of London as well, there's the Broken Spoke Bike Co-op in Oxford. There's also places in Bristol, so there's the Bristol Bike Project that do those things as well. So they do exist, and again, it's a word of mouth thing as well, just being able to talk about those things existing. And hire schemes are great. Obviously, Brompton has the highest scheme to be able to hire their bikes too. So there are things out there. I think it's just raising more awareness of these things existing and not thinking, it's the £10,000 Pinarello that I'm going to need to get in order to get into cycling.
Course,
it's not that.
No, you have to start at that level.
Yeah.
Like, no. It's that or nothing.
So there are
Full like
other,
crap. Day one.
there are other options out there and other avenues to get into it. So I think, again, it's just sharing those resources. And I don't know, I don't want to say I'm a child of the internet, because my age says that I'm not. But
we all are now.
yeah,
It's fine.
but it's just, the resources that are available online and the cycling communities there who can, I found out things about it. I'm still learning every day. So every day's a school day when I'm online talking to people about what's available and what can be done to widen participation in cycling. So it's there.
Give it a go.
Obviously now I want to ask you, like, what's the most expensive bike you've ever ridden? I want to. Bet you've done some very jazzy ones. Jonathan, have you ever had to go on a proper jazzy one?
Well, the electric mountain bikes are a bit crazy.
Are they?
Yeah.
God, don't be on an electric bike on a mountain, surely.
Oh, so amazing.
Is it?
Yeah, I was against them for ages, and then I had to go on one, and I was like, this is life-changing.
Really?
So I can drive up the mountain and then flick it off, and it's all fun.
Oh, okay, right.
The problem with mountain biking, when you start it off, you get to the bottom of a mountain. In order to go down the mountain, one must go up the mountain.
I'm getting very philosophical
Yes, and that was just horrible. They're always like, and now it's just like, woo, but they're like the price of a car.
now. Okay.
Yeah, crazy.
That sounds fun, though.
Oh, it is fun. It is fun. They go pretty quick.
Jules, have you been on an electric mountain bike?
I haven't been on an electric mountain bike, but I have been on some very lovely e-bikes out there. So yeah, I can't sing the praises of e-bikes enough, just in regards to the accessibility that they offer as well.
There's like line bikes and stuff around.
Yeah.
If you're a novice
also
biker
do.
and you're like worried about your fitness level or something like that, you can just get on it and just they're pedal assist. They don't drive, they're pedal assist, so you have to pedal. So you can actually burn calories and actually do something, but they make people feel like if you're old, right, and then you're just like, oh, I want to go out, but I'm like, oh, I can't do it. You can get in this little fella and keep up with the 20-year-olds and be like, tch.
But never a scooter. We must make that very clear.
Yeah.
It's not the same thing. Yeah, have you been on some, insanely sort of pro?
I have, and it's just that element of sort of, again, dipping your toe into different facets of the cycling world. So yeah, there have been some, over my 10 years that I've been doing it for, there have been some very tasty bikes that I've been on.
Yeah.
So it's nice to dabble.
I feel like tasty bikes should just be like a little avenue of your blog. Just
tasty
Yeah.
bikes.
And we've got a couple of questions left, but what do you feel like is your biggest achievement in your sort of cycling life? Is it getting your kids into it? Is it like a huge pub tour that you've done? I mean, I feel like we're going to have across the spectrum here.
There's a mountain in Limerick, and when I first started biking, I only was able to get a small bit, and it took me about 2 years, and I made it to the top of the mountain with my brother. It was about 56 miles to the top of the mountain, but it was snowing when we got up there, and we had these pictures, this videos up on the top of this mountain snowing, and we were like, for us, it was like we were at the top of the world.
Yeah.
It took us like months of practice to try and build up the stamina, because there's no e-bikes. Now I could probably go there and, but the fact that it was a challenge, and we overcame that challenge and we did it, and I think that was just such a bonding experience.
And you were talking before about the endorphins, I was saying, how have you got the time to exercise with 4 kids and everything? And you were like, well, that's how I chase my endorphins now. And like Jules on the velodrome, and it's a great sport to make you feel great, and it is addictive as well. I couldn't get on public transport at all. I was like challenging myself to keep, do it for as long as possible, cycle absolutely everywhere.
Yeah.
Like there is that sort of addictive element to it, and also to stop injuries as well. That's the other thing I wanted to.
We are getting old, folks.
I know. I really am. Like honestly, I was running at the very start of lockdown. I was like, my knees are not. And then cycling sort of like
it loosens it up, and there's pressure on it, and makes you feel better. And then its mental health is amazing. There's so many positive elements to it.
Yeah.
But I think the big thing is like not to be put off by looking at like the professional, like the high-end bikers.
No, it's just to look at it, like you say, on a grassroots level, and like your kids and getting them into it and and I bet it keeps them occupied for a while as well and knackers them out.
Yeah.
You've got to do it. You've got to be like, what's an activity that they'll enjoy that like for a while they could do? Like all my friends' kids, they've got an attention span of like 7 seconds. I'm like, right, we're going on a bike ride.
Yeah.
We're doing
that is scary when you're on a bike with the kids, because they kind of just steer with their heads.
Oh, okay.
They just kind of, you're like, oh my goodness. It keeps it interesting.
Yeah. And Jules, what would you say is your sort of biggest achievement that you've done in cycling?
Oh wow.
The velodrome sounds good.
That was good. That was something that I never saw myself doing.
You've done like ultra distances and stuff, haven't you?
Not super ultra distances. The last one that I did was a couple of weeks ago, taking part in an event called the Women's 100, where you ride 100 kilometres in a day.
Wow.
And there are people out there that could do that in a heartbeat, but for me, that was huge. I did it the first time last year, came back, did it again this year, felt really energized and just proud of the fact that I was able to do that in a day. But doing it at my own pace was important as well. So it's like I didn't have anything to prove to any outsiders or naysayers who had
Next year you're going to win.
there is no winning. So it's just like it's
going to be you.
You're going to be the hero people need.
Right. No, it's just the thrill of being able to do something like that is great. And then some of the other sort of sportives that I've done over the years. So like there's a sportive called Leroyka that I enjoy doing. And I was able to do that in Tuscany, which was the birthplace of
I've seen some very cool pictures of that.
It's so amazing.
From all the guys I know that are into cycling.
Oh my God, so there's the version over here that's done in the Peak District. I've done that a couple of times. It's been cool. Actually going over to Tuscany and riding in the Tuscan Hills, which is something I never imagined myself to do. And it was a slog to do it, but it was incredible. So it was this wild euphoria that I had, that I was doing it on a road bike that was older than me as well. There's all these sort of rules in regards to the age of the bike and the gearing on it, etc., etc. Like head to toe in sort of traditional, like old school cycling gear, so woolen jersey, woolen shorts, leather cycling shoes, like no clipped in or anything like that at all. And for me, it was just a sense of achievement that I'd left sort of the comfort of my own home in East London, gone out to the Tuscan Hills, done something like that where at some points I thought I'm just going to snap in half at some point on this ride. And I didn't, and I did it. And that was a huge achievement for me, because I still think about it in the sense that I am that little black girl that grew up on a council estate in East London who got told by various people through stages of my life, this isn't for you, you're not cut out to do something like this is not where you're going to be. And it's just like, hello, here I am. I'm doing the thing. So I'm proud of that.
Please tell me you had a lot of pasta after that.
Plenty.
Yeah,
there was a hero's dinner. It was called the hero's dinner that you have. You have a hero's dinner the night before and then a hero's dinner after the event.
Oh my God,
and
that sounds amazing.
My partner is a pasta chef as well, so everything just combines nicely when we do bike.
Yeah.
So it's all good.
That sounds great. Well, and guys, what's next for both of you, and where can people find you? And not literally. on one of your many platforms, including Bebo.
Yeah, including Bebo. Yeah, follow me on Bebo. Give me some love. People love.
Just like he was doing really well on YouTube, and then his Bebo just went.
Yeah. Your future. Yeah. YouTube, Instagram. You know, I think my @ is here at Jonathan Joly on most of them. Yeah.
Great. And have you got any exciting new projects, or are you not allowed to talk about stuff?
Just tune in. You know, we're actually starting a podcast.
Oh, great. See, there we go.
Yeah,
Nice.
Yeah.
When's that coming out?
We're starting recording now. It's a new element of YouTube that we're able to do, which is a membership thing.
Oh, great.
Yeah, because it's just like an unfiltered, myself and my wife just being unfiltered about the nightmares of parenthood.
I think people will enjoy that a lot.
There's a lot of nightmares.
Yeah.
That's why we do such long cycles.
Yeah, away.
Away.
Oh, can't come back
60
yet.
miles today.
Yeah.
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 4 kids.
15 miles per kid.
Yeah.
And Jools, what are you up to at the moment, and where can people find you?
Oh, well, people can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Lady Velo, same place to find me. And my blog is velocitygirl.co.uk. I'm plotting away doing some more writing and putting book 2 plans together at the moment. And
is there a title? I feel like Jonathan Ross.
No
What's
title.
the new film about?
No title as yet, but you know, things are being put together. But in regards to cycling,
How I won the 100.
Yeah.
It's not a race.
How I became the hero the people
The hero
need.
of the people.
How I entered Tour de France 2022 and won.
Yes. Come on, Jools.
Maybe in another lifetime.
I feel like Jonathan's now your coach.
I know. He's like my life coach, just shouting encouragement in my ear. But no, the next thing that I'm going to be doing in regards to bikes, which is a little bit different for me, is I'm going to be dipping into mountain biking last.
Oh,
so,
look, we can meld the both of you.
Yes.
Jonathan, you can impart your expertise. I'm going to get an electric bike and go for mountain. I live in East London, so, you know, there's a small skate park near me.
Part 2 of this.
Part 2, we're all pros in various tribes. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Jools. I've been Alexandra Haddow. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram and all the usual stuff. And I should have said that, I did mention it, but we are in Forest Base in Spitalfields in London. It's a lovely co-working space. Come and check it out. They've got a few all around London, maybe outside of London. I'm not sure. Nobody's nodding or shaking their head. But it's basically nicer than my own home. So do check it out. You'll probably get lots more done than I do in front of my sofa watching This Morning. I really need to book into one of these, actually, genuinely help. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us.